Good afternoon. Good day, everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Solutions of America, joining you back here for another in our series of Tech Tuesday webinars. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who have been tuning into this series since early 2020, we'd like to welcome you back. As you know, we develop these webinars so that our customers, resellers, integrators, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products, solutions, and as well what we're doing with some of our key alliance partners. So I'd like to welcome you to a special edition to today's Tech Tuesday that we've entitled NAB Show Sneak Peek, Unlocking the Potential of Pro Bravia Displays, together with our partners from Crestron and Calman. You'll hear about the versatility of Sony's Pro Bravia displays. We'll learn about the integration with Crestron XIO cloud-based solution, and you'll hear about Calman's color calibration for Sony Pro Bravias. Before we start, a few items of housekeeping. As in all of our webinars, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. So please submit your questions via the in-event meeting question panel. We'll also post links to all the information referred to during the webinar in the chat panel, and we'll also post a link to our YouTube playlist where you can view all of our archived Tech Tuesday webinars. So joining me today will be Bob Bavalacco, Director of Technology Partnerships for Crestron, Marcel Gonska, Vice President of Marketing for Calman, and Anthony Cianferrano, our Senior Product Manager for Sony Pro Bravia displays. So I'll hand it over to Anthony now and join you all back here for Q&A.
Thank you, John, and thank you everybody for joining this presentation. I wanted to start this presentation with this slide because it shows all the different applications that Bravia can fit into and all the different vertical markets, everything from transportation, education, retail. We're advancing our product to meet the demands of all these different vertical markets. So I just thought this would be a nice slide to start with. We've moved out of the typical conference room. I mean, we're still working the conference room and the classrooms, but we can fit into many other different spaces. So this is the agenda today. We're going to look at our NAB booth layout. This will be my 15th year at NAB, and so I'm happy that we get to showcase our product there. So I'll go through our booth location in our Pro Bravia area, the lineup overview. I'll go over our Crestron XIO demonstration that we'll have at the show, and our alliance and technology partners. We'll talk a little bit about the 100-inch and its very beautiful image quality that we'll have on showcase at the show. We'll also talk about Portrait Display's Calman Ready solution for Bravia, which is a color calibration solution. And also I want to touch on our Bravia Knowledge Center, which is a technical resource. So let's go ahead and get started. We're in the Central Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center, booth number C8101. And the Bravia area is in the back corner there, in the back left corner next to the virtual production area. Our booth is usually one of the most popular booths. It gets pretty crowded, but please make your way back to the Bravia area and talk to us. So this is what we're going to have on the wall there. I have a selection from each one of our product categories, our different chassis, and I'll talk about this as we go here. So this display will be showing our lineup video, and we'll get into more detail about the lineup. We'll have the Crestron XIO dashboard displayed here. All of the displays will be networked together, and I'll be connected to their cloud platform, and we'll be able to show the console and how we can control and monitor all the displays that are on the wall here with the XIO system. This display will be running the Alliance Partner video, which talks about all of our compatible partnerships and alliance partners. The 100-inch will show some very high quality HDR content that kind of showcases what's always been Sony's strong point is our picture quality. We have the best picture quality in industry, and this will really demonstrate that. And then the 75-inch BZ40H will show the Kelman for BRAVIA solution, which is the color calibration solution from Portrait Displays. So just getting started here with the lineup video and what it's going to show. It's going to go into detail about our lineup in the different categories. So starting at the bottom and moving up, we have a tuner series, which are consumer displays that we bring into our channel and back with a 3-year warranty. And there's 2 different chassis that we carry currently, the X75K, which is a 55 and 65 inch, and the X80K, which is the 75 and 85 inch. As we move up, we move out of that consumer prosumer category into our dedicated B2B line. So the BZ series, and that's what the rest of this presentation is going to focus on, the BZ series. We have the 2 categories, the standard line and the high-end line. And they're really differentiated mainly by brightness capacity. You can see that the mid-range standard line is in the 300 to 500 nit range, and the high-end line is in the 600 to 650 nit range. In the high-end line, we actually have 3 different chassis: the BZ35J, which is the 43 and 50, the BZ40H, which is the 55 through 85, and then our flagship, which is the BZ40J 100-inch. So the next few slides, well, talk about more detail about the BRAVIA lineup. So all of the BZ series have these attributes to them. So they're all tunerless. They all work with the Android TV operating system. Currently, we're on version 10. They all have Pro mode for customized settings. They all include Chromecast and Apple AirPlay 2, which is built in. They have very high picture quality and also high reliability. All of our displays come with a 3-year commercial warranty, and there's also a 5-year commercial warranty, which is now standard on the BZ40H line. They all have a common platform, so the system on chip, the SoC, is the same across the board. The operating system, as I mentioned, is the Android TV OS 10, and that's the same on all the models. The connection interface is the same. The menu system, the OSD, is the same, and the functionality is basically the same. So we really have a common platform, which is very nice for system integrators and end users, because they don't have to learn how to use one menu for one series and another menu, or different capabilities for a different series. So the only key differences are the brightness capacity, and there's some difference with the cosmetic design. For example, the BZ35Js have a bezel-less look to them. They all have 24/7 support, and what I mean by that is we actually go through a reliability testing phase and make sure that these are reliable over that kind of usage of 24/7, and that's why we can specify 24/7 operation. Same with portrait and tilt installations, where the thermal characteristic changes, so we have to test and make sure that they're reliable over that long term, and they are. So that's why we can promote them that way. They all include 4 HDMI inputs. They all support RS-232 and IP control. They have Energy Star certification, except for the models that are listed there. The 30 BZ30J 32-inch and 55-inch don't have Energy Star, as well as the 75. But everything else does. Cisco RoomKit certification is now with all the displays. That was a software update. And then there's some built-in solutions as well. Within the Pro settings menu, there's a separate menu called Startup Services. And then that Startup Services menu, there's several built-in apps that you can install and run directly on the display. For example, there's a meeting room app, which lets you have a customized background and auto switching with inputs and a timer, sleep timer. There's also a web UI app that lets you control the displays and monitor them via a web interface. There's a multi-display function, which is for video wall matrix designs. I'll show you a picture of that. And then support for HTML for HTML5 for developers. We also have direct access to Google's Play Store. So you can download apps directly from the Play Store to the display. And that's not just for consumer TV entertainment type applications. There's also professional applications that are on Play Store that you can download directly to the display and install and run. And then Crestron Connected and XIO are also built-in apps within the display. And we'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit. So this just runs through the different models that we'll have on display. Like I said in the beginning, we have each of the categories on display on the NAB booth wall. So the BZ30J is the smallest unit in our category. It's UHD resolution. It's edge lit. It's the only model in our lineup that has an edge lit design, and it's a 300 candelas per meter brightness capacity. And the upper right corner, I've put images in that kind of show where we target these displays to be. Of course, they can be used in many different applications, but the huddle space application for the 32 inches, kind of our target application. On the bottom left corner, those are the Sony technologies. On the B2B commercial line, we take full advantage of the consumer TV technologies and the picture performance technologies that are well known in the industry for the best picture quality. So I put those in the lower left panel to just show that these displays have very high picture quality. And the 32 inches, we'll have that on display at NAB. That's why I've circled it in green. On the BZ30J series from 43 to 75, you can see the brightness capacity goes up. We're up to 440 candelas per meter, and it uses a different backlight system. It uses a direct LED backlight system. And we'll have the 65-inch on display at NAB. As we move up the line, we get into the BZ35J. That consists of the two models, the 43 and 50 inch. Brightness is, again, it goes up. It's 560 candelas per meter squared for the 43 and 570 for the 50 inch. And we'll have the 50 inch is going to be on display at NAB. Now, as we go up into the BZ40H line, the picture performance goes up again because it's a different type of backlight system. This one uses the full array LED backlight system, so we can modulate the backlight based on the picture, based on the scene. So bright areas of the scene get emphasized with the backlight, and dark areas stay black. Very high performance, especially for HDR content. That's why there's two specifications there for the brightness. The 620 candelas per meter square is for the typical brightness. For example, a full white screen would be approximately 620. But the highlight areas, the moon at night, the sun reflecting off of a lake, that can achieve peak brightness of 850 candelas per meter. And you can see the Sony technologies that are on the lower left panel. We'll have the 75-inch on display at NAB. And then the flagship model in terms of our size and picture quality is the 100-inch. We'll have that on display at NAB. It uses a different picture processor than all the other models. This is the latest picture processing technology from Sony with the XR cognitive processor. And there's all the different technologies that go along with that processor, like the XR motion clarity, XR contrast booster, the XR upscaling, and the XR Triluminous Pro. So that'll be showing the HDR content at NAB. And then as we move along across the wall, we'll be showing the Crestron XIO dashboard. As I explained in the beginning, we'll have all 5 of these displays networked and connected to the internet. I'll be able to log on to their cloud platform and show the dashboard, which will have each of these displays monitored, and I'll also be able to control them in terms of turning them on and off, switching inputs, and things like that. So Crestron XIO Cloud is available on all our displays. All the BZ series displays have a built-in app that lets you communicate with the cloud platform. And it's used to deploy and manage all rooms integrated with other Crestron XIO Cloud devices globally. So not only the BRAVIA display, but other Crestron components that are in the room. And so we can use it for remote device management, operational standards maintenance, automated or ad hoc remote support, and device reporting on the XIO Cloud dashboards. But we've invited Bob Bavalaco from Crestron to tell us a bit more about the solution. So Bob, please.
Well, thanks, Anthony. Over a decade ago, Crestron developed its IP-based control and management platform called Crestron Connected. This technology is embedded in the device's firmware, which results in the device being a native endpoint that can automatically be seen and managed in a Crestron room ecosystem and remotely controlled from a web UI on a laptop or from a Crestron touchscreen on the conference room table. This enables clients the ability to remotely control the device, such as toggling power, adjusting volume, selecting inputs, and accessing other settings. But equally as important, it provides the integrator an easier way to connect the device to the room system without having to perform time-consuming programming and testing. In 2021, Crestron updated this technology to include Crestron's XIO Cloud solution. The combination of the Control and XIO Cloud remote management solutions now offer a complete device control and management platform, all built into every device. Sony was the first display and projector manufacturer to embrace this latest version, which really showed Sony's commitment to providing a seamless user experience relative to remote control and management in any conference room where a Crestron-enabled Sony display is installed. The addition to being able to control the display, the XIO Cloud solution allows AV administrators the ability to manage the device remotely with such things as viewing its online status, scheduling power on and power off events, sending messaging to the display, knowing when a critical parameter was exceeded, as well as apply global settings. The release of the updated technology aligned perfectly with Sony's ProBravia product roadmap, as they were able to immediately adopt it and go to market with the industry's best displays enabled natively out of the box with the power of the industry's most robust remote control and management capability. But it isn't all about control and monitoring that makes the partnership as successful as what it is. Let's shift to two other applications that further maximizes Sony Bravia integration with Crestron, which is wireless presentation and digital signage solutions. Crestron's AirMedia 3 wireless presentation system, which also supports digital signage, enables the Pro Bravia display to not only become a native endpoint for control and management, but also a native endpoint for wireless presentation and digital signage. Simply put, Pro Bravia is literally one of the most feature-rich, technology-advanced display solutions on the market today, which not only provides an amazing video experience, but becomes part of the client's entire AV and unified communications ecosystem, giving clients a holistic conferencing user experience for rooms of every size. Back to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Bob. So let's move on to the next display, which ties into what Bob just talked about, which is our alliance partners and the compatibility that we've established with different solution providers in the industry. So the display that is on the wall there, the 65BZ30J, is going to run a video that explains all the different compatibility, technology partners, and alliance partners that we've worked with. In addition to that story, if you will, we also have an alliance and technology partners page on our website that I'd like to introduce you to. This is the look at the page on our website, and that's the URL to the right. We'll have that posted in the chat so that you can access it. And then we've established relationship with certain partners that we've elevated to a higher tier, which we call our alliance partner network. And those are the partners that have worked with Sony to make sure that the systems together work well and we can address each vertical market and each application together. So it's not just Crestron calling on a customer and Sony calling on the same customer. We work together to address the needs of the same customer. So we really call them our alliance partners. And then On that same website, there's also a tool that lets you filter and find the different compatibility or technology partners that we've established. So I want to back up back to when we first got into the B2B BRAVIA market back in 2018, and we had the Android TV operating system. We had a lot of digital signage solution providers asking, customers basically asking us whether this solution was compatible with BRAVIA. And at that time, we didn't really have a firm understanding of what was compatible. But since then, and that's what this is all about, is we've been able to verify compatibility, and we have a program that we can test units and the platforms together so that we can ensure compatibility. And that's what you'll find in this part of the Alliance Partner page. The Software and Hardware Alliance Partners have already been tested and confirmed compatible with the BRAVIA system. So that's a huge step forward that we've made over the last couple of years. The next display, which I've already talked about a little bit, is the 100-inch. That'll be showing the high quality HDR content. This is some of the picture technologies that are built into the 100-inch. And we consider it our flagship, both in terms of the size and also its picture processing and picture performance. And then finally, last but not least, we have the CalMan Ready CalMan for BRAVIA color calibration solution. And that'll be running on the 75-inch. We're going to show a video that talks about the features and benefits and also runs through a simulated calibration process so you can see what that calibration experience would be like. The trade show floor is not really a good place to do that, so we've decided to run a video instead that shows what that process is like and how it can very easily calibrate the BRAVIA displays using their system. So for more information about that, we've asked Marcel Gonska from Portrait Displays to tell us a little bit more about the solution.
Thank you very much, Gene and Anthony, for inviting us to have the chance to talk a little bit about what Portrait Displays is doing in collaboration with Sony about the professional Sony BRAVIA displays. Now, maybe at first we should actually have a look at what we talk about in this 5 minutes. So first of all, I want to give you a little update on who we are, what we're doing, and what CalMan is all about. Because before we start to talk about CalMan Ready and what the Sony professional displays actually can do thanks to their CalMan capability, it probably makes sense to have a little look at what CalMan actually is and why it is so important in the industry. So first of all, let's have a look at who we are. So Portrait Displays is driven by color and backed by science. Well, why do we say that? Because in the first place, we're a software developing company, right? So we're pretty much in software for displays, everything that's somehow color related. So from all the different things we're doing, one of the things that immediately will stand out is the CalMan software or the CalMan calibration software that we are providing. The DNA of CalMan is also in all those different areas, from hardware to software and workflows and everything in between. So it's basically the essence of calibration, validation, and certification, as actually we were saying. So that said, CalMan is also used in the entire life cycle of content creation, distribution, and also consumption. So we're basically providing an entire lens to living room experience. And I think it's pretty sure to say that CalMan right now is the world's most popular color calibration solution. The reason for that is pretty eminent. I mean, it's made for verification of display performances, right? And it's actually made to meet the rigorous requirements found in color critical environments, right? Where calibration is important, verification, reporting, validation. You really want to know what you're doing. And most importantly, it allows auto calibration. I mean, calibrating displays automatically by the use of AutoCal. That's something that's part of CalMan Ready, and that's the reason why we actually talk about this, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that Sony decided to be part of CalMan Integration Solutions Program, which means that as part of that program, there is something what we call the CalMan Universal Interface. And the CalMan Universal Interface allows to establish a communication between the display and the laptop on which CalMan calibration software is running. And so the laptop is connected via IP, Wi-Fi or Ethernet, with that particular display you want to calibrate. And then through that interface, display controls and commands are basically transmitted so that CalMan calibration software can take over the control of all the settings in the display. The meter is connected through USB to the laptop that's running CalMan. A pattern generator is also connected to the same laptop so that those patches, the color patches, are loaded directly from a pattern generator. And then you're loading your Sony BRAVIA display-specific workflow. And with this workflow, it's a wizard that's telling you step by step how you would actually perform that calibration. So you start the workflow, you connect to the meter, you connect to your generator, then you connect to the Sony BRAVIA display, right, over IP. And then after that, the CalMan calibration software can actually start applying the calibration. So that means that there is a pre-calibration reading first. And then during the calibration process, there are patches that are loaded. And CalMan then is actually pinging taking readings from those different gray patches, for example. And so with the BZ40 series, right, we're actually doing a 10-point gamma and grayscale correction. So that means that the entire gamma curve can be corrected. The luminance values of that particular 10 points can be automatically corrected. And the white balance can also be automatically corrected. So that in the end, you get a very, very smooth, almost perfect looking grayscale tracking with that particular display. The white balance is right based on the standards you're setting it to, and also the gamma correction is exactly and as precise as it can be. So which actually gives you the best possible color performance and grayscale tracking performance you can imagine with that particular display model. So with camera ready, after installation, you can easily match displays with each other, in a multi-display setup. You can make them all look the same, same luminance, and make sure that they have the same gamma tracking and the same color performance somehow, look the same, and so on. So at the end of the day, you can say CalMan Ready is actually making the integrators' lives much easier, and they're going to love you for this. Thanks for listening, and back to Sony.
Thank you, Marcel. So that's a very good example of the type of compatibilities and partnerships that we're working with in the industry. So we really appreciate those kind of partnerships that we have in the industry. So to move on, the next, this is kind of a summary page of the portrait display solution. Marcel kind of went into all the detail already, so I don't really need to go over this again, but that's a look at their kit for the calibration solution, if you recognize that in the market. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before we close here is our Knowledge Center website. This is a technical resource for, it's open, it's a public website, so end users, but system integrators, resellers can all access this, and you can find technical information such as the specifications, CAD and PDF dimensional drawings, how-to guides, API information for controlling display over RS-232, or REST APIs, IP control, all available on this website, the Knowledge Center. So that URL should be in the chat, hopefully, and you can access that. And then I want to thank everybody for joining, and I hope to see you guys at NAB. And this is our contacts. I'm the product manager for BRAVIA. Joe Drury is our commercialization manager, and Gene Lewis is our senior channel and events manager. And then a special thanks to Bob Bavalaco from Crestron and Marcel from Portrait Displays. So back to you, John.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Marcel. Great presentation, lots of information, and of course, we've got a couple of questions. So the first one is from William, and this is for you, Anthony. He says that he's noticed other manufacturers have a matte finish on some of their screens, and makes it less reflective. Want to know what Sony's looking at to maybe do something similar.
Right, that's a good question. So the typical display treatment for anti-glare is microscopic level of texture, if you will, or roughing up of the surface. That's what makes it less reflective. And it does a great job of diffusing the reflected light, but it also diffuses the emitted light. So it's kind of a trade-off. And we've always stood behind the highest picture quality and the sharpness of the display. So you're right. Our displays don't have that high level of anti-glare treatment. However, we do recognize that that is a limitation in some applications where there's a high ambient or the display is located next to a window or something like that. So we do have a solution on the roadmap. I can't really talk about much at this point, but we recognize the need for that type of a display. So stay tuned, and that's about all I can tell you right now.
Thanks, Anthony. Got another one for you. This one's from Tony. Tony, just it's really more of an observation. He says it looks as though the Pro Bravia lineup is the same as last year.
Yeah, that's true. So the BZ40H, the H indicates the last letter of the model number indicates the year it was introduced. So BZ40H was a 2020 model, and the J, the 35J, 30J, 40J, those were all introduced in 2021. But that's what we committed to the market, is to keep the displays in the market for at least 2 years, and that's what we've done. So our system integrators and our consultants, they really appreciate a stable platform. They don't really want a model change every year so that they have to worry about mechanical design or interface changes. So that's exactly what we intended to do, was to keep those models in the market for a couple years, at least 2 years was the commitment to the market.
Great. So, Bob, we got a question for you. This one's from Trey, asking about the XIO cloud integration. He wants to know, does it support configuration setting, messaging, and some of the other system level settings?
Yeah, great question. Those are actually on the near-term XIO roadmap. So right now, what you saw when Anthony presented and in my presentation, the common settings, viewing data analytics and logs, powering the device, powering on and off. I want to speak about that in a quick second, John. But wide-scale configuration settings deployment and firmware management are on two of the things on the near-term XIO roadmap. The thing about messaging is a component of the Crestron connected technology that is embedded with XIO in the Pro Bravia. We can push, or an AV administrator can push messaging to the display, but we have to be very specific and say, this is not emergency messaging. An emergency message content system, if a client should employ one, say at a school or an organization, is that's where that content originates. Nobody can be responsible for any vulnerability in the messaging or validity, if you will, of the messaging. So, but an EMS system can map into Crestron Connected and XIO and push that message to all the displays. So, hey, fitness thing, fitness class about ready to start, yoga, whatever. If those displays are in a fitness center, messaging like that, either through digital signage or through an AV administrator push is supported. I want to circle back to the powering on, the powering off, and the XIO's capability of supporting scheduled events. This is a big one that a lot of clients are eager to look into. A lot of clients are receiving incentives as they show they're managing their building footprints to green initiatives, right? And state and local and federal agencies are providing incentives to organizations that can prove they're throttling down their energy consumption. So with XIO Cloud and AV Administrator, imagine Sony BRAVIA is deployed throughout an organization on every floor in every conference room. Imagine having the ability to power them all off at 6 at night, or on the weekend, they do not come online. They power up again, or they become available to come online on Monday, say at 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's a pretty significant feature that an
Yeah,
organization can tout to go for those incentives. So just kind of to round out that whole question on the XIO.
for sure. Thanks, Bob. And there's a follow up question here on the XIO from Maureen. Maybe we can tackle this one as well. And she just wants to confirm. She thought the presentation that you made earlier indicated that there's no additional hardware necessary in
Not
order
for XIO,
to
correct.
implement.
Nope. The way this whole
Excellent.
technology works is there would be a Crestron room controller somewhere in the ecosystem to control all the other things that are Crestron enabled in there. The UC components for unified communications. That has nothing to do with XIO. XIO is 100% cloud based, built on the Microsoft Azure platform. So yeah, no additional hardware. In my presentation, I did allude to a device called AirMedia 3. That is a little box that gets bolted on the back of a display, and that supports wireless presentation, but it also supports digital signage. AppSpace is one of the, you had mentioned AppSpace is a Sony Alliance partner. They're one of the applications built into that AirMedia um, device, and there are some other of the Alliance partners that you've alluded to, such as Corbett, that are on the roadmap for that device to support digital signage as well. So that
Got
would be
it.
a required hardware component, but that's on the digital signage and presentation side of the house.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification. Appreciate
So,
it.
yep.
Let's see. This one is probably from Marcel. Marcel, this one's from Doreen. She asks very simply, does Sony sell the Calman calibration solution?
Oh, you mean if Sony is selling the solution?
Yes.
Oh no,
Yes.
actually, it's basically a standalone solution like Kelman. You can purchase through Portrait displays, so that means you either would go to portrait.com. So Kelman ready means that the device is ready to be actually accessed through Kelman calibration software. So what you want to do is you would want to go to portrait.com and then have a look at the different business licenses that are available there. So there are different Kelman versions. So we have, for example, Ultimate, which is one where you can create even your own design workflows and things like this. There is one that's called Studio, more for the professional studio environment, and there's another one, Video Pro, for installers and integrators. And all of those solutions then would actually talk to the Sony professional BRAVIA displays. So that is what you want to get. And as soon as you have that, all you would need to do is get a meter. And that's the beauty with Calman. It supports most of all the meters that are available in the world. So even if you have your own meter, you could there's a high likability that you already could use this. Or if you have already a pattern generator, there's a high likability that you could use that one because we support most of that hardware with the software. So Calman can control the generator, can control the meter, and all you need to do is establish a Ethernet connection, and then you can run the AutoCal workflow.
And
Thank you.
and I would just like to add that on the Bravia side, if you use the Play Store application that's built into Bravia, you can download the Calman for Bravia application. That runs on the display and allows their software to talk to the display's hardware.
Thank you both. Thank you both. We've got another question, Anthony. It has to do with the Pro Bravia firmware. And Doreen is asking again, how can I update the Bravia firmware?
Well, there's two ways to do it. The one way is built into the unit. In the help menu, there's a software update selection where if it's connected to the internet, it'll go out and search the internet to see if it doesn't just search the internet. It goes and connects to our Bravia site and finds if there's a new software update available. If there is, you can download it directly to the display and install. That's one way to do it. It's the easiest way if you're connected to the internet. The other way is to go to our Knowledge Center and you can update it via USB. So on the Knowledge Center, there's under the resources section, there's a firmware tab, and you can see all the latest firmware releases, download it to USB, and then install it via USB. And there's a couple other methods we can do too over a LAN. Um, there's a Bravia updater tool that we can use as well to update the unit.
Thank you. And this next one is from Linda. And this is probably either for Anthony or Bob, whoever wants to take it. Maybe Anthony, you go first. So she's working with 55BZ30J, but seems that she can't find the Crestron IO initialization application. Can either one of you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So that was part of a software update that we did last June, right around Infocom timing last year when we announced support for Crestron XIO. So if you have the latest software installed on the display, you go to the Pro Settings menu under Startup Services, you'll find Crestron XIO. You select that, it installs in the display, and then you'll see that app on the apps menu on the home screen, just like all the other apps. And then you open that up, and that initializes the display to be, what's the term, Bob, that we use? Uh,
Crest, Crestron enabled, or
yeah, claimed on the cloud platform. Yeah,
claimed in the XIO portal.
right.
That's actually an interesting question, because if you remember, Anthony, at Sony's AV Expo last September in Manhattan, we came across that, and Karam had to come over and configure and download that update for us to claim the device in the portal.
Right.
Right.
So it's available on all the BRAVIA displays as long as you update the unit to the latest software.
Got it. Thank you, Anthony. And we've got one more question. Looks like we'll end on a controversial note. And I don't know if this is Anthony, Marcel. Jason asks this question: if Sony Pro Bravia displays are so great, why would we need to calibrate them?
John, may I
I'll
take
toss
this?
it to you guys and step back.
I really would like to take this. Is that possible? Right. Okay, cool. Okay, so here's the thing. Every display needs calibration. Even a Sony BVM 300 or the 310 X310 reference display that's used in most of the grading studios in the world actually needs calibration. It's not because the displays are not good. It's actually because there are a lot of different things that actually might happen to the display that you are not realizing it, or you want to match them within an environment where you have to match different displays with each other. There's always either deviation in the mass production, which starts with panels. There is aging in the displays, which means that running them and actually torturing them, depending on the content, like HDR and peaking and whatever, you really want to make sure they stay constantly right, which means that calibration helps you to do this. And of course, you might have different video standards, right? So there's not just one standard. Depending on what content you want to show, you probably want to make sure that let's use digital signage, for example, and you're using brand colors that are the display is used in an environment where brand color is very important. You want to make sure that color is right. You probably want to make sure that you know what your display is doing. So there are a lot of reasons for either validating it or calibrating it or matching it with, let's say, a multi-wall display setup where you have a couple of displays next to each other and they all should have the same luminance. Yeah. Maybe there is a brighter room. You want to change the standard of 2.4 gamma for a dark room to a brighter gamma, where like a 2.2 gamma, which is coming out of black more quickly, so you don't have crushed blacks in a bright room, and you want then match all those displays with each other. So I could go on forever. So a lot of different things that you want to do the job right. Yeah.
I couldn't
Marcel,
say it
thank
any
you.
better.
Thank you so much, Marcel. Really very, very informative, educational. That's our last question. So again, we'll thank our partners, Bob, Marcel. Thank you so much for joining us today. Anthony, thank you as always, and of course, we wish to thank all of our attendees. And we continue to ask you folks who are tuning in to our Tech Tuesdays, please send us your feedback, send us your suggestions or your requests for future topics, and we'll definitely get them on the schedule. As a reminder, our next Tech Tuesday will be May 2nd, and it's going to be simple steps to a content management strategy. So anyone who's going to NAB, a reminder, please look for Anthony, look for Gene in the Sony Pro Bravia section of our booth. Make sure you visit our partners, and wish everyone a safe and profitable day. And we'll see you on May 2nd. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Marcel, Bob.
Thanks.